Welcome to Disrupting Japan, straight talk from Japan's most innovative founders and VCs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about how to drive innovation into traditional, conservative, low-margin, blue-collar industries. Now, that might sound hard to do, but it's actually even harder than it sounds. And, that's why so few startups seriously attempt it, and why it's extremely profitable for the few founders who manage to get it right. Today we sit down with Taro Sasaki, the founder of Hacobu, a startup that is finally bringing digital transformation and automation to Japan's logistics industry. And Taro's constant refinement and testing of his ideal customer profile and go-to-market is a story that all founders can learn a lot from. Now, Taro and I talk about the best path for founders to take when trying to sell to industries that are resisting digitization, how a lack of regulation can sometimes actually lead to less innovation, why the logistics market is so hard to crack globally, and the two big factors that led to Hacobu's sudden change of fortune. But Taro tells that story much better than I can. So let's get right to the interview. So I am sitting here with Taro Sasaki, the founder of Hacobu, who is reinventing trucking logistics in Japan. So thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you too.
So Movo is a suite of SaaS tools that handle fleet tracking, vehicle dispatch, loading, unloading. I gave a brief explanation in the intro, but I think you can explain it much better than I can. So what is Movo?
So Japanese logistics infrastructure is collapsing.
What do you mean collapsing?
So the number of truck drivers is decreasing. The government estimates that in 2030, 25% of truck drivers will short to the demand.
So what's causing it? Is it just it's a lower paying job that younger people just don't want to get into?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. And also the business process in the infra is very outdated and very analog. There are many inefficient things going on. So the demand for the truck driver is increasing, but actually the supply of the truck driver is decreasing. So the gap is going to increase.
That's interesting. So the demand for trucking is actually increasing recently?
Yes. Because of the development EC, we want to get things. For example, at the supermarket, we want the commercial goods on demand so that the suppliers have to deliver the products on time that we want to buy it. So the amount of goods in one truck is decreasing.
So is this increase in demand, is it mostly that sort of last mile delivery? Is it long haul freight, or is it both are increasing?
Both of them.
Wow. Did not expect that.
Yeah, because B2C logistics is easy to understand because
Yeah, the whole e-commerce boom.
Yeah. But there is a big infra in the back of the EC, which is called B2B logistics. For example, there's a factory, and the factory have to be supplied. So the suppliers have to deliver to the factory by a truck. And then after the factory manufacturer, they have to deliver to warehouse, and then the warehouse deliver to the supermarket or the EC warehouse, right? This B2B logistics infra much bigger than the EC infra. The number of the size of the infra is about like 50 choen comparing to EC, which is about 3 choen.
And so Hacobu's goal, Movo's goal, is to address that 25% shortfall through increases of efficiency. Mm-hmm. I want to dig into that and the challenges of trying to bring digital transformation to these conservative blue-collar industries. But before that, tell me a bit about your customers. So you have 850 or so customers using your products now. So what kind of companies are they?
So there are many stakeholders in this infra. There's manufacturer, right? And then dock warehouse, which is outsourced to large logistics company. And then there is distributor. And then there is a retailer.
So in Japan, from the time that Kirin makes that beer in their factory to the time it is sitting in a glass on my kitchen table, how many different warehouses has it been in? How many different trucks has that bottle of beer been on?
At least 2 or 3. And the trucks are not owned by large logistics companies, but by small trucking companies. There are about 60,000 small trucking companies in Japan. And then most of them are, Papa Mama trucking companies. And then large logistics companies outsource business to those, small trucking companies. So there are 2 axes of the complication: layers times layers. Those are all the stakeholders. And then communication between those stakeholders done fax and phone calls, so that the data related to logistics are not connected to each other.
So in your system, you have different software components that support all of these different functions, from the drivers themselves to the vehicle dispatch to the loading and unloading. So who is the customer that is paying for the service? Is that which part of the chain do you identify as like your real customer?
It's case by case. For example, Aeon, the large retailer in Japan, they buy our application by themselves. But for example, 7-Eleven, they outsource logistics to logistics companies. So they ask the logistics companies to use our system. So it's case by case, up to the power balance between the shippers and logistics companies.
Okay, so that's interesting. So in the case of something like 7-Eleven, you're not actually selling directly to the logistics company. You're selling to the end client, who will then go downstream and tell the logistics companies, we want you to use this software. We want you to use Movo software. Interesting.
Okay. So you have to find a trigger point. So in the case of Aeon, you have to talk to Aeon directly. They directly use our system. But in the case of 7-Eleven, we talk to 7-Eleven, and also we have to talk to the logistics companies that 7-Eleven, outsource their business. So that's why I was saying, case by case.
I want to get back into the go-to-market and sales cycle in a minute. But before that, I want to talk a little about you.
Me?
You.
Okay.
Yeah. So you founded Hacobu back in 2015, but you started a number of startups before that, right?
Yeah, 2 startups. So this is the 3rd startup.
And your previous startups were, let's see, there was Glossybox, which was a beauty e-commerce site, and Fresco, which is kind of a food e-commerce site. Yeah. So why the change? What drove the move from like this very marketing intensive B2C e-commerce to a pure B2B play?
So my entrepreneurial life started from Glossybox, which was backed by Rocket Internet.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Rocket Internet.
There are a lot of, there are a lot of Japanese founders today have a bit of a Rocket Internet story.
Yeah. They are not, superhero in the, entrepreneurial, scene, kind of heel. Right?
Yeah, but I understand it can be a great learning experience.
Yes, that's right. So a friend of mine at the business school, he's a Korean guy. He first started Glossybox backed up by Rocket Internet in Korea, and then he successfully launched a business in 2011 something. And then he came to Japan. He was in charge of rolling out the business to APAC. He came to Japan and was looking for a CEO of Japanese business, and he asked me to take that role. And that was my entry to this entrepreneurial scene. And then not so long, 1.5 years, but it was successful. In 9 months, the business got profitable. I thought, starting business is my calling. The pressure from Rocket Internet was very tough, but I kind of enjoyed it. But Glossy Books, the business model was given by Rocket Internet, right? So I wanted to start a business from really scratch. And then I started Fresca. I thought e-commerce business is very easy because Glossy Box was successful in the short term. I thought I hacked online marketing. And then I found that Rocket Internet started HelloFresh. So I thought I brought it to Japan. I copied the business model in Japan, but it didn't go well because the logistics was very difficult. So I changed the business model to like online mall of high-end food, which was not successful at all because online marketing at Glossy Box was successful, but it is very different from online marketing for high-end products.
E-commerce has always been fiercely competitive, but what was the biggest difference between the two products? Why was Glossy Box easier to market online than Fresca?
Glossy Box is subscription business, and then the service is very cheap. So the customer segment that we target is not in a high end. And then we use social marketing a lot. So we send the boxes to bloggers at the time, and then they...
Yeah, that's a much different model than a pure e-commerce.
Yeah, that's right.
So what led you from that to logistics?
Yes. When I was running Fresca, the founder and the CEO of Hacobu, Mr. Iwata, he is a mentor of mine. He was always telling me, if you want to start a business, you should do business solving a social problem and then contributing to society. The business of Glossy Box and Fresca, those are good business, but not a business that is necessary, like crucial. And then Fresca was not going well. Like 3 years, I didn't get any salary from the company. So I worked as a freelancer for a consulting firm. Then the client has the logistic function. I see the client has 10 logistics subsidiaries across Japan. I found that the inefficiency of the business and also how big the infra is. I thought, this is what Mr. Iwata told me.
So you'd found a big problem that was worth solving.
Yes.
So that makes sense. But logistics anywhere, but Japanese logistics in particular, is extremely traditional.
Mm-hmm.
People have been trying to introduce digital transformation for at least the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it's still a lot of paper, a lot of faxes, a lot of people making phone calls. Did you get a lot of resistance from the industry? And how did you overcome that skepticism they've built up over the last 25 years?
Actually, I didn't feel there is a resistance from incumbents. They just didn't want to change.
Just out of principle?
No resistance. Just they didn't have the incentive to change. And also, there are many stakeholders, right? When I started business, I targeted the Papa Mama trucking companies because there are 60,000 trucking companies. They own the trucks. I thought if they change, the infra will change. So we call them, get the appointment, and then when I went to see, the guy wasn't there. And I called him, hey, we have an appointment. Where are you? And he said, I forgot the appointment. Okay. And then next day, I went there again, and he said, what you're saying sounds very good, but I don't need to pay money to buy your service. It may support us, but not necessary. That is what they say.
So with 60,000 companies, are most of these companies have like 2 or 3 trucks? I mean, what is the scale of operation you were trying to sell to?
So by law, trucking companies have to have over 5 trucks and 5 drivers. So that's the minimum. And then 90 or 50% of the 60,000 trucking companies owns from 5 to 10 trucks. So small.
And so they just didn't see the value it would add to them.
No, they don't have incentive to digitize the business. And they said if the large logistics company who give the business to them will order them to use it, they will use it.
Well, so they're telling you who you need to sell to, right?
Yeah. So we continue to target small to mid-sized market for 3 years. And then we struggle 3 years.
Well, I'm curious if you were getting the feedback from the customers that they were only going to adopt it when upstream forced them to. Why'd you wait so long to start selling to the upstream companies?
You have to have get access to enterprises. It's not easy to talk to enterprise companies in Japan. I think in US it's much easier. But in Japan, if you don't have a reputation, you cannot access to enterprise.
So what was your first breakthrough in the sales?
So Daiwa House and Hacobu, we got into the collaborative relationship in 2019 or 18. And now they invested into us. And then they built large warehouses across Japan. So they have access to large companies to rent the space of the warehouse. And then they held a seminar. 200 large companies, enterprises gathered to the seminar. And Daiwa House gave me a chance to talk in the seminar. And then Kao and Eon, the people in those companies came to me and they said, your idea is what we are thinking. I thought this is the time that we get into the enterprise. So we talked to them a lot and we developed an application that Aeon required, which is Movo Birth. So the doc appointment system. And then we use that example to sell to the enterprise.
Right, that makes sense. So that was the introductions. But as we were saying before, it's such a conservative industry. Even once you get the introductions, what's the sales cycle like? How long does it take from that first meeting to actually getting an account?
At this moment, it takes about 3 months.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. But 3 or 4 years ago, it took half a year.
And was that just lack of reputation, or you've gotten better at selling, or combination of both?
Combination of both. And also another big factor accelerate the sales cycle, which is 2 laws related to trucking were published last year. And then 2 years ago, the former Prime Minister Kishida told the cabinet to make laws to solve the issue in this B2B logistics infra. Those 2 laws were published last year. So it was a big following to us.
What were the laws?
So mainly they require to shippers and the retailers and the wholesalers, those companies, they force them to be responsible for the logistics business process efficient.
Okay. Efficient meaning, how do you do that in a law?
For example, manufacturer, they have factory in warehouses, right? Truck drivers goes to warehouse early in the morning and they wait for loading for about like 2 or 3 hours. And then the law forced the companies not to wait the drivers for so long time, make the waiting time within 2 hours.
Okay. And was the law concerned mostly with like labor conditions or?
Yes, that's right.
It's interesting. I mean, I work in energy, and I think a lot of founders really underestimate the opportunities that new regulations open up,
Mm-hmm.
especially in conservative industry, because now they have to change.
Mm-hmm.
So have those laws been a driver of new business, or has it been sort of a plus alpha, nice to have?
It's not just nice to have. It changed our growth speed a lot. Our business in these 2 years have grown rapidly comparing to the last 8 years.
The opportunity to digitize traditional blue-collar industries is something I find fascinating, and really it's overlooked by a lot of startups. So tell me a bit about like the onboarding process, because your users, a lot of them are not going to be very used to technology. They're not going to be very comfortable with these interfaces. How do you onboard new customers?
You have to support the people at the side very carefully.
Okay.
Now you have to talk to them a lot. The investment in the customer success in terms of time and headcount is required. As a business, it won't be as efficient as tech touch business, but in order to change blue collar industry, you have to spend a lot of time on site.
So, no, this is interesting. So if you've got like a 3-month sales cycle, which is pretty good for enterprise sales of any kind, what's the onboarding and training cycle? You send people to the site, you run training seminars on site. What do you do? How do you get people comfortable with it? And how long does it take?
So we combine a lot of tools. In the beginning, we use online training program to the people at the site. And after that, we go to the site before go live of the system. Also, we support truck drivers online. So if the truck drivers have questions how to use the system, they can call us. And then our platform has a network effect, because if E.ON started using us, or their affiliate started using our system, the trucking drivers or suppliers goes to E.ON and 7-Eleven at the same day. So if all of them use the same system, it's very efficient for suppliers and trucking drivers.
So yeah, as you mentioned, it's very strong network effects. The sales compound, but the support requests also compound.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is Hacobu's ratio between like sales staff to support staff?
The same.
So about 50-50?
50-50, yeah.
All right. You mentioned the network effects and how different companies interacting with the system are incentivized to move on to one of the MOVO platforms. You've got a suite of products for, birth, which is for loading, unloading. You've got vehicle dispatch, fleet management. When you were starting to sell the program, did you start with one function and build outwards, or did you have to kind of bootstrap everything up, chicken and egg style, all at the same time?
I would say, so Move Birth, it's kind of landing product. So we land by Move Birth, and we get connection to the executive of the enterprise, and then start introducing other products and cross-selling them.
And that makes sense, because birth, that's the one that's most directly affected by the law you mentioned, right?
Yes.
That's scheduling arrivals and departures.
That's right. And we have like about 60% share of the market. We're kind of dominant player in that niche. So we leverage that in a strength.
So what is the long-term growth strategy? Is it simply firming up the current products and just trying to get all of Japan's logistics on this? Is it building out more and deeper products to sell to existing customers? Is it moving sideways into other types of logistics, maybe rail or marine or something?
Our business model is not just to sell the application to the site. Our goal is to create a digital logistics information platform across the B2B logistics infra. The platform has 3 features. One is that it has cloud system, and the second is a lot of stakeholders own the ID to log on to the cloud system. And the third is the data of logistics are stored in one database. And then the data is not one company's data, but data across the entire supply chain. Now we use big data to optimize the logistics across the supply chain. That is what we started to try from last year.
Okay, interesting. So who are your main competitors?
So
For the application space, not for the deeper data.
So our business is composed by the two layers, application layer and platform layer. With this two-layer business, we haven't been able to find a competitor. There's only one entity which is aiming similar model, is in EU. There's a business EU invests into the entity, and also a large companies in EU invest half of the money. So it's not commercial business.
So then do you have plans to expand globally? I mean, this is a global challenge.
Yes, yeah. We are already looking into new market abroad, and there are many inquiries from abroad. For example, Thailand and Korea, and also EU. So yeah, we want to expand our business abroad.
Let's talk a bit about kind of Japan in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, what's the best advice that you could offer other founders or aspiring founders who want to sell into traditional blue-collar enterprises?
You have to have a luck.
That's true. True, but not really useful advice.
True, but yeah, not useful. One thing that I can give an advice is the reason that, for example, Daiwa House or Aeon or Kao, those companies came to us is that we have a big vision to solve social issues. That is necessary to talk to them.
Really? So they weren't interested in you simply because you're solving this specific problem for them. They wanted a bigger picture and vision.
Mm-hmm. They are very helpful to solve social problem. One of the key success factor of us is we directly address social issue.
That's really interesting because in pure software sales, it's almost the other extreme. Most customers want you to solve a very specific problem for them as cheaply as possible, as easily as possible.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's such a difference in culture between the different industries?
Of course, most of the customers are like that. They don't want to help companies just by the vision. But especially the enterprises, the so-called early adopters, they have, how do I say, not incentive, but like emotion to change the world or solve the social issues. And then we successfully found the key persons in those companies, and then we were able to let them help us in the beginning.
I guess maybe it's just that in other industries that are used to software, everyone's used to the idea of you're changing software every few years and it's just a normal part of innovation. But in really conservative industries, that visionary person needs to push the idea. He needs to make it inspiring inside the company. Otherwise, everyone will say just what all those little mom and pop trucking companies said, that, we don't really need this now. It's not important for us now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Taro, before I let you go, I want to ask you what I call my magic wand question. And that is, if I gave you a magic wand and I told you that you could change one thing about Japan, anything at all, the education system, the way small companies look at risk, the way large companies deal with their suppliers, anything at all to make it better for startups and innovation in Japan, what would you change?
I would change birth rate.
the birth rate, increasing it, I suppose, but why?
Because I believe it is the root cause of many problems in Japan. Because a lot of problems are from the shortage of labor. That facilitate innovation sometimes because
like in your case.
Because there's a shortage, so the technology have to support the shortage. Yeah, of course, technology will be able to solve the problem, but the history shows us the number of people in the nation defines the.
You just need that younger energy in the culture.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm.
Well, listen, it looks like they're about to kick us out of the room.
Really?
So, listen, Taro, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. And we're back. Now, Taro's not joking comment about luck being the deciding factor in Hacobu's success is something that not enough founders really appreciate. In fact, most founders simply refuse to acknowledge the important role that luck plays in startup success. But as John D. Rockefeller once said, the secret to success is to get up early, work late, and strike oil. The key insight here, whether we're talking about Rockefeller and Standard Oil over 100 years ago, or startup founders today, is that success depends not just on luck, but being prepared to take advantage of that luck when it finally comes your way. So, how does this play out in traditional industries in particular? Well, one thing that all startup founders targeting traditional industry have shared with me is that, for the most part, modernization only happens when these companies have exhausted all other options and are finally forced to change. In Hacobu's case, this came from the retailers like 7-Eleven forcing their supply chain to change, but also from a change in the law. And this really shows how well-crafted regulation can drive positive innovation. In Japan's logistics industry, the significant money lost year over year due to chronic driver shortages and ongoing loading and unloading inefficiencies was not enough to drive change in the industry. And that's because these problems were spread industry-wide. No one company was put at a disadvantage. Furthermore, since each company only operated in one part of the overall value chain, modernizing and optimizing their one specific link would not improve things that much, despite the significant investment required. Now, in economics, this is a classic coordination problem. And coordination problems almost always require an outside force, usually legislation, to get everyone aligned and to take the same step forward together. The key strategic issue, however, is that as a startup, if you wait for that coordination to be solved, if you wait for that legislation to be passed before starting your company, you'll be far too late to the market. As Taro explained, Hacobu spent years building their reputation and gaining larger and larger accounts so that when their luck finally turned, when that legislation was finally passed, when Hacobu finally struck oil, they were absolutely ready to take full advantage of the situation. So yes, you need to be lucky, but you need to be ready to be lucky. You need to be prospecting in promising industries. You need to be drilling in promising fields. You may not know exactly when your luck will turn, but when it does, you'll be ready. And then, well, then everyone will wonder how you got so lucky. If you want to talk more about selling to blue-collar industry, Taro and I would love to talk with you, so come by disruptingjapan.com/show242 and let's talk about it. And if you enjoy Disrupting Japan, please share a link online or just tell people about it. Disrupting Japan is free forever, and letting people know about it is the absolute best way you can support the podcast. But most of all, thanks for listening. And thank you for letting people interested in Japanese startups and VCs know about the show. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening to Disrupting Japan.